mifugo.
Maziwa kwa wingi, ni kama mvua. Maziwa kwa wingi, utashiba.
Akishiba, utashiba. Fugo Calf Starter Pellets, Calf Grow Pencils, Heifer Grow, Dairy Milk Plus, and Maxi Milk Plus. Products of Unga Farm Care.
Akishiba, utashiba. Utashiba.
Profite na ng'ombe wako.
Jambo and welcome. This is Farm Kenya. My name is Peter Wakaba. You're just in time for 1 hour of news, views, and analysis on matters agriculture. And this time around, we are going to be digging deep into something that's close to very many people's hearts, something that is found in most of your kitchens, something that you eat, you buy, you cook every day. We're digging into what every tomato, every onion, and indeed every fruit farmer across the country and the region should be paying attention to: how to grow more, how to increase your productivity while protecting the environment. Now, with the much-awaited horticulture farmers training in partnership with us here at Farm Kenya, coming up from May the 8th to the 10th at KALRO in Thika, we're giving you a sneak peek into just what's in store for you at that event. Our guest here today, Mr. Stephen Njiraini, is from Real IPM, that's Integrated Pest Management. He's here to share smart, sustainable crop protection solutions while using biopesticides that are changing the game for farmers right across the country and the region. Indeed, don't go anywhere. This could be the turning point for you, your farm, and your productivity. Let's jump right into it then. But before we get into that discussion, let's look into something that is close to the hearts of many, many people, because climate change has been pushing many, many people across Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia into severe drought and food insecurity between the years 2020 and 2022. Now, in Kenya alone, around 2.8 million people required humanitarian assistance, according to the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction in 2023 in their report. Now, in the face of these challenges, what can you do to, well, make yourself more productive? Now, women in Ganze in Kilifi County have turned to the hardy indigenous Gala goat. That's a breed that is well adapted to arid conditions to strengthen their community's resilience. Known for surviving on minimal water while providing rich, dark meat and milk, Gala goats are becoming a vital lifeline here. At the forefront of this shift is one person, Mariam Sheman Mohammed from Bonga village, that's in Ganze, who along 30 other women is leading the efforts to secure food, income, and hope in the fight against a changing climate. Davis Musumba visited Bonga village and has filed the following story. Take a look.
With 89% of Kenya's land classified as arid and semi-arid, impacting 23 counties, regions like Kilifi County are at the heart of the country's livestock economy, contributing 19.6% to agriculture and 4.9% to Kenya's GDP. Despite this economic potential, persistent droughts, floods, and famine have devastated sub-counties like Ganze and Magarini, leaving over 250,000 households struggling with food insecurity, according to the National Drought Management Authority reports.
Yani huku ukame umekithiri sana kiasi cha kwamba hivi ni mwaka wa 3 hatujapata chakula kabisa. Unaweza ulale njaa kabisa, manake wewe ukiangalia umeenda kwa duka umekopa unga ngano. Aya, umezungusha hivyo vihamri vyako, Alhamisi ndio imefika. Napeleka hiyo shilingi 50 huko. Nimegawa watoto. Tena kumbuka mahitaji yale, nigawe unga asima, nigawe na mboga. Hakuna hata angalau unaweza tafuta vongonya hili uwalishe watoto. Haiwezekani.
And drought, it usually goes to an extent that without interventions, people will suffer.
In Bonga village, Ganze, Mariam Sheban Mohammed, alongside 30 women, is leading a grassroots economic and agricultural revolution. Through the adoption of the resilient Gala goats, these women are creating sustainable livelihoods, securing food, and building new income streams.
Hili kundi la Amua Women Group tulianza mwaka wa 2015. Tulianza wamama tu hivi, shida zilivyokithiri sana, ndo tukaamua kwamba jamanini, si afadhali wanawake tuungane, tuwe wanawake angalau tufike 10 ama 15, tuanzishe kundi ile tunabwaga. Tulianza tu na merry go round yenyewe ile, kama una shilingi 20, tulianza na shilingi 20. Shirika la KEMSED lilituwekea pesa kwa akaunti yetu shilingi 3 milioni. So ile pesa sasa tukaibadilisha, sasa ndo ikawa tuletewe mbuzi badala hiyo pesa. Manake kama ni pesa tungelikuwa hata tumemaliza kuikula siku hiyo hiyo. Manake tuna shida, milioni ni kidogo kwa kila memba wangu. Hawa watu 30, kila mtu alikuwa anapata mbuzi 6. Yaani unapata ndume moja na jike ziwe 5. Zile 5 ambazo zilipawa zile za jike zote zimejifungua. Kwa hiyo mimi sasa niko na vitoto 5 vya mbuzi.
According to the adaptability of the Gala goats, they usually adapt very fast because they, due to their features, they have long legs, which makes them to travel long distances in search of pasture. And they are able to consume the little amount of pasture feed from the area they graze. They can usually convert it to they can sustain themselves with very little feed compared to the other breeds. And the other thing is that the Gala goats, they usually grow fast. Like a Gala goat can mature from 1 year, 6 months to 2 years. So it means if you rear the goats like from January, by next year, God willing, you may have kids at your homestead, which is a lucrative business.
When crops fail and rivers dry up, Gala goats, donated through the Kenya Marine Fisheries and Socio-Economic Development Project KEMSED, provide a reliable economic lifeline. Across Ganze, Magarini, and Kilifi North, 1,600 Gala goats have been distributed, empowering women to withstand climate shocks.
Zikianza kuzaa kwa wingi, huwa tuko na soko basi ni bamba, na litatusaidia kama tukishikana kama makundi, mmoja yuko na 2, yule na 3, yule na 9, alafu tunachanganya tuenda peleka bamba, tunauza, tunapata mapato ili tujiendeleze kimaisha yetu.
The farmers or the group, as they are rearing the Gala goats now, when the Gala goats they kid down, they are able to get enough milk as a source of nutrition in their homestead, because a Gala buck or a Gala doe, when adequately fed, can give around 1 liter of milk, which in turn can boost up the nutrition levels in the homestead. Thus in turn improve the health of the homestead. And in terms of business, like a Gala goat from the local market in Ganze sub-county, we have a livestock sales yard in Bamba. So the Gala goats, they usually fetch like a Gala buck. They fetch a price from around 10,000 to almost 18,000 a buck. And a doe, they fetch a price from around 7,000 to around 12,000, which in turns they empower the farmers to rear them adequately enough so that they can attain the market and they be economically empowered.
Each Gala goat, capable of producing up to 1.5 liters of milk per day, can fetch up to 15,000 Kenyan shillings in local markets, providing a steady source of income to pay for essentials like food, school fees, and healthcare.
Because of the effects of climate change, we advise farmers that they look for other sources of feeds. Like there are some certain trees they usually grow, like the Lucina tree, Caliander tree. Another source of feed, which in turn replenishes the inadequacy of pastures, the natural pastures. Where they are inadequate, you can provide those other sources of feed from those trees. which in this area they are very prevalent. They are easily found. That is a source of protein, which in turn builds the mass content of the animal.
Starting with small-scale businesses like goat milk kiosks, the women have built a thriving cooperative economy rooted in resilience and entrepreneurial spirit.
Nina hiyo emu ya kwamba nikiuza naregesha mbuzi mdogo hapo wa replacement, na hii pesa nyingine niangalie mahitaji yangu ya nyumbani, kama vile nalipa school fees mimi kwa watoto. Inaona imenirahisishia sasa, manake nilikuwa sijui kabisa kwamba naweza nipate school fees wapi juu ya watoto wangu. Lakini sasa hivi naona hata kwanza nimerahisisha.
In a region where rainfall is unreliable, the sight of women herding gala goats signals more than just survival. It symbolizes economic recovery and business innovation.
Sasa hivi niko kwenye macho ya watu kwa sababu wanaona huu mradi sasa umekuwa na kila mmoja anaulizia, hii mbegu nitaipata vipi? Hii mbegu nitaipata vipi? So kwangu hiyo naona nitakufanya huku, nitabadilisha, nitakuwa haitakuwa na ugumu wangu mimi wa kuweza kuuza, manake ni wengi wanataka ile mbegu ya kigala.
Once vulnerable, Ganze's women are now financially independent entrepreneurs, building a more sustainable and prosperous future for their families and communities. Levis Msumba, KTN.
Well, we'll soon be sending Levis Musumba to Ganze to figure out what's happening for the men as well, seeing as we've seen independent women. Are the men also getting empowered by these projects? Quite a question to think about. Now, in line with that story, we want to go across the country and take a look at the prices of mutton in different markets right across the region. Let's take a look at that. Well, quite an incisive look there at the markets, of course, against the background of how you can grow your own goats like those women are doing in Ganze. Of course, to remember that when it comes to sheep, mutton, that sort of thing, it takes even less, especially in the more productive areas of Kenya. Money that can be made in a short while. Of course, here on this show, we strive to give you information that we can use to put money into your pocket. Of course, now we're back in studio for the second part of the show, the discussion around what you can do to improve your tomato, onion, and fruit farming. Of course, that also being an area that can enable you put money in your pocket. Now, when it comes to matters horticulture, Farm Kenya, that is our show, is organizing a 3-day farmers training excursion on tomato, onion, and fruit farming. Now, this will be held at KALRO's Horticulture Research Institute in Thika. It's known as KALRO Thika to many people. Now, you can expect expert-led sessions on tomato, onion, and fruit production. You can expect business modeling and farm financial management and much, much more around the market systems approach to these products, and of course, the role that you can play along the value chain. Now, excursions to model fruit tree nurseries, orchards, tomatoes, and onion production units are also part of the deal, and you'll get the opportunity to interact and network with successful farmers and agripreneurs as well as experts. There's going to be a bonus lesson on poultry farming as well. Now, let's hear more from farmers, from the organizers, as they introduce themselves. Well, I'm told that will be forthcoming. Let's get into the space where we start our discussion. Now, against the background of what we've just talked about and the crops that we have indicated that we will be talking about here today, I want to start off this discussion thinking about why these crops that we've highlighted are important. Why aren't we talking about maize? Why aren't we talking about something else? Why tomatoes, onions, and fruits? Let's bring in our expert, Stephen Jirani.
Yes, Stephen Jirani is my name.
Yes.
An agronomist with Lil IPM company. Lil IPM is an organic-based company that do help the farmers to bring production organically. That is, in the whole set of the production, we normally assist the farmers to do what we call organic farming. Yeah.
So then let's look at this from the start. The things that we've talked about, onions and tomatoes, are a staple across much of the region. It's something that people consume every day. Why are we focusing on this as a good business?
Basically what we are saying is that we are trying to look at what is the short-term way of making money. Like the farmers of which they were talking about the gold in terms of the milk.
Yes.
Another way of making money in terms of agribusiness or agripreneur aspect is short-term production of, that is the onions, the tomatoes, and at the same time the fruits. Anything that can grow within short term, like 3 months, and then you take it to the market. Yeah.
So then when we think about these crops, because they're different, let's take them apart. Let's start with onions first. How long does it take to grow an onion from start to finish?
Onion basically goes for 3 months.
So 90 days.
It goes by the variety. We have the short-term varieties, we have the hybrids varieties, but basically it should be between 3 to 4 months, from the time of the propagation of the nursery.
So then I want you to take us what should be the ideal mode of propagation that people can then look at, so that we're saying if someone wants to get into this space, this is what you need to do. If you're already in this space, then benchmark yourself, this is what you're doing.
We should go for, let's say for instance, onion.
Yes.
You have to look at the best variety in terms of the production. At the same time is you have to look at your area, which is the common pests which will affect your crops. At the same time, you have to look at the market trends, and at the same time, the pricing at the time, by the time the production will be out.
So are there then varieties of onions for different places? Some might just common. Like for example, we know there is maize that does well in Kitale, but will not produce anything in Nyeri.
When it comes into onions, it goes by the production. The varieties differs by the production. Yeah.
So that, let's take an example. I have a 1 acre farm in Kitengela, right? I have a bit of water, so I can maybe irrigate and that sort of thing. What are the varieties I'm looking at, and what should I be on the lookout for?
And depending on the numbers of the companies that we have in terms of scenes management, you will see like the production of onions, it will differ with the seed itself. We have the medium production, we have the hybrids which are now having as much as even to between 15 tons in an acre. Yeah.
What determines my choices?
What will determine your choice is what do you need to put in the pocket.
So you're saying that if I can afford to buy more expensive inputs, maybe for example, my productivity will be higher?
Automatically, it will be higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go to the tomato. And I want us to go step by step through imagining that we are farmers, aspiring farmers. We want to put this in the ground. We want to grow this. We want to think about the pests. We want to do the proper husbandry until this is going even to market. I know that the beginning is finding an expert like yourself to engage with, to know more about the area. I know there's soil testing involved and things like that. Let's start at the beginning.
The first thing is that you need to identify two things, two common things. One is the type of the seed that you want.
Yes.
That is the key aspect, the seed. At the same time, the type of land that you are to plow on, or you have to put the production on. The other thing is that we have two things that we also need to put into consideration. One is the propagation of the seed. Locally, like the traditionally, we used to propagate seed rings on the ground, but currently we are now having seed propagators. At maximum of the seed propagators, you see it, the seed rings they should go for 21 days. Then you take it to the main seed bed. At that time, you need to have already prepared the main seed bed quite in time. And at the same time, the time of planting, there are things that you need to have put in common. For instance, you need to be having enough manure, the organic manure. You also need to be well prepared. That is after doing what you call soil testing aspect. The company that will help you to do soil testing management should have already enlightened the farmer what the soil needs or what is lacking to have already been provided in time. At that time, that's when you see there are some scenarios when you see like our soil could be lacking some aspects. Like if let's say, for instance, our soil could be a bit acidic, expect something like some pests which could have already infested in that soil, like for instance something like nematodes. Then at that time, that's where the real IPM should come in and help that farmer at the time of planting. What is this that should we control our crop so that we can secure that plant in terms of the production aspect in the near future before getting the loss of it. There are some type of treatment that we normally do to the soil, which is a preventive measure to avoid what we call in the nearby, we'll talk about it, it's wilting. Wilting is the aspect whereby you lose that crop either by it have already been latent in the rooting system or it have already undergone decaying aspect.
So up to that point, you're still thinking through and strategizing. Assuming we get all these right, how then do you start? You will procure your seeds, you've said the seedlings from the seedbed, and then put this in the ground, right? How then do you ensure maximum growth, optimum, so that we then start to talk about productivity?
Maximum output then goes by the preparation of the mindset.
Yes.
From the first preparation up to the last initiative, you need, that's why we are calling it agribusiness. You don't need to have already sat down, prepare yourself both mentally and financially. By the time you are going to procure the light seeds up to the propagation of the crop, you need to have already be well prepared. From it, automatically, it gives you the total output.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen instances where the market, for example, here in Nairobi and other places, you're saying hatutaki nyanya kubwa. We also don't even want large onions, we want small, the smaller bulbs. Grassroots, people will look at productivity in terms of the size of the crop that you're producing. Now, you talked about market trends. How do you marry the two, knowing that you want to produce optimum crops for the market, but also wanting to drive your productivity for a good return?
You see these seed propagators,
Yes.
And especially these companies that normally produces the seeds, they have helped the farmer to cater for that challenge.
Yes.
Currently, the seeds that you are to produce currently, you have, by the time the farmer going to source the seed, he knows the size of the fruit itself.
So it removes the work of figuring out what the market wants from you as a person. So the technical work is done by the seed producers and then the propagators. So yours is to go get this because that's what is driving the market and putting it in the ground.
Yeah, automatically.
How do you grow the knowledge of farmers? Because in the past, we've said farming as a business. Most people have not been able to do this. Usually it was you from the ground up. What has been your experience working with farmers to get them to change their mindsets so that they learn to play the specialized roles that they can do within the value chain?
For sure that question of embracement by the farmers, sometimes farmers like to go to the way of the tradition, what do I know?
Yes.
But currently, because of so many farmers are now embracing what we are talking about, the agribusiness in terms of farming and production, farmers are now willing to get the information. Now it's like you couldn't get the farmer calling you or make the visit to the farmer. The farmers are now in need of site visit. I need you to come to my farm and tell me what I'm going along. Like myself, I'm in the Rift Valley.
Yes.
And the farmers, nearly you could intermingle freely, not like before, whereby they were talking of, unless I go to the uncle of it to get the information.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want you to hold that thought right there, because we want to go on a break. But when we come back, because behavior changes for me is a major driver of the conversation we are having, especially the fact that a lot of people have refused to remember that they're driving this as a business. Yes, you have success stories, but for majority of the farmers who need training, who need learning, who need capacity building, they're still thinking subsistence. But of course, that essentially, after the break, we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
You are watching Farm Kenya, brought to you by Fugo.
Akishiba, utashiba. Fugo layer feed, Fugo Kienyeji feed, and broiler 2-stage and 3-stage diet. Products of Unga Farm Care.
At Standard Talanta Academy, a collaboration between Talanta Institute and Standard Group, we are forging the next generation of media moguls, driving economic transformation and shaping the future. Introducing our flagship program, the Media Mastery Course. From TV and film production, photography to digital journalism, we are about action. Our hands-on approach means you will be creating, producing, and innovating from day one. But we don't stop at technical skills. We empower you with life and entrepreneurship skills. And with Standard Group, home to KTN, Radio Maisha, Spice FM, the Standard newspaper, and more, you'll have unparalleled access to real-world experience and opportunities. Enroll now and ignite your journey in the heart of the creative economy. Visit www.talanta.ac.ke or call 0724 468 468 for more information. Standard Talanta Academy. Unleash creativity.
You are watching Farm Kenya, brought to you by Fugo.
Akishiba, utashiba. Fugo layer feed, Fugo Kienyeji feed, and broiler 2-stage and 3-stage diet. Products of Unga Farm Care.
Well, thank you for staying with us here on Farm Kenya. Again, my name is Peter Wakaba. On this part of the show, we want to get into the knowledge aspect. Of course, thinking about the fact that a lot of people will have interacted with agriculture at the subsistence level. And the question then being, what do you have to do to increase, to drive productivity, to start driving your agriculture as a business? In fact, getting into various aspects of the value chain so that you can say you're participating in a way that is putting money in your pocket and running an agribusiness. And our expert is still here, Mr. Njiraini. Karibu sana again.
Asante.
Now, before we left, we were talking about the knowledge aspect, and you were talking to us about your experience in the Rift Valley, where you have people who've done a thing, who have planted their crops the same way for years, sometimes for decades, sometimes for generations. But you're trying to get these people to embrace working with other market players, changing the way they work, because this will drive productivity, it will give them new seeds, it will give them new technology. Talk to us about that experience.
Embracement currently is now taking too time, because sometimes you see like majority of the farmers are too slow to adopt the concept. But you see With too much interaction with the farmers, currently they are now willing and
Starting
too much
to learn, yes.
starting to learn. You call them for the training, they are coming in and quite in number. Majority of them are still making follow-ups so that they can learn more and more and more for the benefit of their future. Yeah.
Let's talk about fruits.
Fruits.
We've talked about onions, we've talked about tomatoes. Of course, the debate out there whether tomatoes are fruits or vegetables. But when it comes to the horticultural aspects of growing high-value fruits, what do farmers have to get right so that they can be ready for market and for the market to be responsive to what they're producing? Where do we start?
Still, in any production, it's identification of the planting material. What do you want to plant? Where to source it? Like currently we are talking of what to produce in terms of fruit, they should be grafted.
Yes.
And the farmers need to go to source a high quality grafted material for fruits. And with it, we find that the production aspect in terms of part 3, it's quite a number. It's giving enough and high quality produce. Yeah.
How do farmers turn around the fact that a lot of time the market is cyclical? That the thing that will be making money at a certain point might not be making in another. And farmers generally react because they hear, like now we're hearing kahawa iko na pesa. So everyone is getting into the ground planting. And 3 years later, maybe the prices will have changed while you're planting. We keep hearing about dragon fruit. We keep hearing about different things. Now, as a farmer who wants to be in business, how do you ensure that what you're planting is relevant to the market? And that you're able to stay in the market perpetually while making good returns?
Interacting with entrepreneurs
Yes.
helps the farmer a lot. Agripreneurs, and that's why we normally tell the farmer, I normally advise the farmer, anytime that you are to produce, be with the link with entrepreneurs. They'll help you to tell you
Yes.
when and what time is the produce being required in the market. But planting by the wave help always help make the farmer meet a challenge, because you see a produce, he got a lot of money on it, let me plant, or we plant in group, automatically the market will be flooded.
What is the role of aggregation first? We've heard a lot about post-harvest losses and that sort of thing. A lot of farmers can be productive. But then the later aspects of the value chain, the going to market, the preserving the produce so that it maintains its value over time and then can be served out to consumers at different points. This still poses a huge challenge across the country and indeed sometimes across the region.
Sometimes it turns to be a very big loss to the farmer, and that's why you see it's an initiative of the stakeholders to assist the farmers to have cold rooms.
Yes.
So that whenever it's produced in bulk, can be stored for later use. Yeah.
As an organization that deals with farmers, how do you work with farmers to then ensure that you drive their productivity on one hand, their market relevance on the other, ensure a good return, but also ensure that they're working within the things we talked about, conserving the environment, working in the face of climate change, while also being relevant in terms of their impact on community?
Lila IPM by itself normally work in partnership with other stakeholders so that we can be able to help the farmer in one end. At the same time, we are still holding the biodiversity on the other end. For instance, like in this program, you see, we are helping in terms of the production. At the same time, we are giving the initiative on when you produce, where will you take the market? How should you use this money? When should you plan for your benefits from it? That aspect of stakeholding helps the farmer a lot and helps the community. And that is the key initiative of the Lila IPM.
You talked about stakeholders. A lot of the time, government and others will put in place policies that might affect the way you're working and the way farmers are working. Simple example, I've seen people who invested in macadamia, for example, and had an off-take market which was international. The Chinese would turn up, or some entrepreneurs will turn up and buy everything. At some point, you then hear, don't want these things to be bought at farm gate. The local processors are the ones who have the market. The others have been locked out. What role does proper policy in terms of predictability, driving a stable environment, and essentially driving the market in a way that's sustainable play in this space?
Normally, in every aspect of the production,
yes,
whatever you agree on, if it sticks, you get the benefit of it. If let's say, for instance, we normally say that we help the farmer to produce, by the end of it all, the government should have already created an initiative that this is what we want. If you fail to make sure whatever they have set as a policy, it's not made, automatically whoever fails or whoever suffers most is the farmer.
Yes.
From the grassroots. And that's automatically, to myself, I see being a challenge. And that's why partnership from the ground normally helps a lot for the benefit of the farmer.
Do you think things like the so-called county aggregation centers, the industrial parks and those sorts of things will help the sort of farmers we are talking about to start to retain more value? Because then maybe the cold storage might be available, the local processing to leave more of the value might be available. Would that be something that you'd talk to the people that you're working with to start thinking towards?
That is the biggest solution to the farmer. Automatically, that is the biggest solution to the farmer, because there are times when the markets are being flooded, or there are times when the farmers have already produced in mass production. Well, you see the prices are not well. Automatically, the farmers will only be advised to take it to the cold rooms for later use.
For me, one of the biggest challenges I've seen is the homogeneity of production across different areas, such that either because of having heard stories and that sort of thing, farmers in one particular area will plant things, causing the glut you're talking about. Yet at the same time, you will keep hearing about producing bulk for the market. How do we marry these two? Because we know that if you drive productivity and produce more, costs come down, productivity improves. But then we keep finding farmers stuck with their produce because either access to market or lack of demand or one of those such things.
Everything lies into whenever there is much production, mass production that is, I tend to believe what the key initiative is value addition.
Yes.
So that changing of the nature of produce, when it is too much for later use, it will switch from when it's being produced in mass, it should not go into waste.
Yes.
Even if we produce in mass, and then there is overproduction consecutive.
Yes.
And at the same time, what is in the cold room cannot go for a long way. It should then be undone the value.
Are there any centers of excellence, any bright spots of productivity, any successes that you can point us to, that you can hold this up and say these are guys that we are working with and these are the results that they've had?
So many. We have so many, especially currently, like real IPM, wherever the regions that I am, is that we are working with the beans productions, with the East African growers. And I see growth and I see success from usage of the organic in terms of production.
The government has been pushing the organic the fertilizer subsidy program, which is fine. But then we also learned that through soil testing, you will discover that your soil might need various other things that might not be NPK, so to say, right? How can working with organic fertilizer and the sort of, I'll say, sustainable non-chemical means that some of the things that you're working with help boost farmers' productivity, even with the subsidy in place?
There are two things here you need to understand, Mr. Peter.
Yes.
That is, there is the production of the NPK itself, the one NPK, that is the supplementing. You are supplementing what is the crop need. But there is what we call fertility, soil fertility, the natural soil fertility. If the soil itself is lacking soil fertility, automatically, even if you supplement, the production will be too low. And that's where the gap Lila IPM is coming to fill in. By use of products which are organically weak, it also helps to maintain the soil fertility for a longer duration.
So I want to break it down for our audience so they can understand. Because you see, when people hear fertility, they think immediately fertilizer. But what you're saying is that this thing is much, much more than just an application of fertilizer. Talk to us about the things like soil composition. Sometimes we have live matter in there, we have aeration, we have depth. Give us a complete picture of what soil fertility is.
Soil fertility is aspect of what does that soil provide for the crop to grow. For instance, it should be having the microorganisms, which helps to mix up the soil and provide the aeration for the roots.
Yes.
At the same time, it should be able to supplement the crop with the aerations. Now, when it comes into microorganism as a key aspect, due to aspect of the acidity, too much usage of maybe the base of fertilizers to say, sometimes you see if the essentials which are in the trace elements,
Yes.
the trace elements, what the soil can provide naturally,
Yes.
if it's not there, the microorganism cannot be there. For instance, the one like if the soil doesn't have humus,
Yes.
The microorganism cannot be there.
So in this case, just to simplify it for our viewers, we are saying that soil composition is just not the macronutrients, which people know as NPK.
The combination of
Yes.
macro and micro.
And then the micronutrients.
Yeah.
And then apart from those, we have what you're calling trace elements, they're really minute. And then we have other things, which is the organic matter, sometimes living organisms and those sorts of things, which all combine to ensure that your soil is sustainably working and replenishing itself into the future. How do you maintain that?
Maintenance of that, it's supplementing
Yes.
over a period of time. You produce, like, for instance, you see a farmer adding manure into the soil. It's supplementing the organic matter into the soil,
Yes.
so that the microorganisms in the soil can have something to feed on. By that, you'll see that that farmer will use little NPK in the soil because the soil is well fed. And by that time, if you happen to take that soil into the lamp,
Yes.
you'll be told there is nothing which is required for your soil. And if it is, very little.
Many farmers are now asking, even in the face of the subsidy and that sort of thing, how can we then sustainably either replenish our soils to get them back to this state where we don't have to apply fertilizer, the commercial aspects, especially because of cost and that sort of thing, but also to have the balance where we are saying that the soil is actually alive. Because when you talked about acidity and that sort of thing, the soil actually dies off because it's just chemicals. But in this case, where do you start? How do you know what you need to add? What does real IPM do with farmers to enable them get into the space where they're saying year to year this is working?
That's where the real IPM is now coming in.
Yes.
Real IPM is now train the farmer. It's not only chemicals that can work in terms of production. In terms of the production, that is, we are trying to advise the farmer, one, could you be having organic manure, whether it's the farmland,
Yes.
or whether it's the compost for the use of the farm.
Yes.
Point number two is, sometimes you see our soil could be lacking microorganisms, so that it can help the farmer or the soil in terms of the production aspect. A real IPM have already helped that farmer to have that microorganisms that can be hardened through drench. It's called Mombasa flourish. As a drench, that is introducing artificially that microorganisms in the soil so that it can help that farmer in terms of what was already lost.
So this is introduced into the soil, not into compost or the manure. You add this directly into the soil, like you add the chemical fertilizers.
Yeah. It can be as a drench.
Yes.
As a drench, you mix it with water and then you
pour it
in the soil. It can be used in either two way, either as a drench or as a spray into the crop itself. Yeah, it will absorb it.
Okay. So this, we'll call it stuff. So this material will actually interact with the crops in a way that the crop is able to utilize, and this eventually ends up in the soil.
In the soil, yeah. And it helps a lot of the rooting systems.
Yes. So in terms of productivity then, farmers who are taking this route vis-a-vis we'll say the usual commercial chemicals and sprays that we see, in terms of productivity and sustainability, what difference can they expect to see?
Two things. One, is it environmental friendly? Point number two, is it beneficial to the crop? And point number three, is it so beneficial to the soil? The production, the produce, that is the product that we are using to help this crop, it's helping the crops. One, doesn't have any side effect to the soil, or it is zero PHI.
Yes.
It doesn't have any chemical. The other thing is it's helping the roots to bring a root mass so that it can be able to feed well. And the other one is it's so environmental friendly.
So this stuff is the drench or the spray. Will accompany each crop every time you plant, or is regular application, or what's the sort of management that is needed to ensure that this becomes effective?
It's regular application. Yeah, it's regular application. Yeah.
Does it work in all different regions? You see, in other places, like we talked about, sometimes your soil might need one thing or the other, or is predisposed to lacking some things because of geography, those sorts of things.
It's for an environment. And the more sweeted is, even those soils that you normally say that they are too acidic,
yes,
the moment they use this stuff we are calling flourish, automatically it helps to neutralize it, neutralize that soil acidity.
A lot of Kenya soil, especially in the breadbasket areas, is thought to be acidic.
Automatically.
So this would actually work for them because it will start to essentially alkalize the soil a bit.
I'm in those regions.
Yes.
And those farmers that are normally using it, they are talking of, I have noted a change in the production. Automatically, that's give an indication that there was something that was lacking that have already been introduced.
Yes, that there was a problem.
Yeah.
In the places that you're talking about, we know that farmers farm extensive tracts of land. You see people who will farm really large areas. Is it sustainable to use this over large areas, or are we talking about horticulture and the small holdings so that you can drive productivity?
In all aspects,
yes,
you can use it either in horticulture or it's either in staple crops. Yeah.
Let's think about, as we wind up, what the farmers, what the producers, what the person we are talking to has to think about in order to drive their productivity. If there was one thing that you would leave them out of this discussion with, what would that be?
Something that I would like any farmer to ask or come up with. But anytime in terms of the production, how should I control?
Yes.
How should I produce? How should I control pests organically? At the same time, could this produce be environmental friendly for our future?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can use the again similar products for pest control that don't necessarily have to throw chemicals into the soil.
Yeah, zero PHI. Yeah. Any pests, any targeted pests that destroy the crop, there is the way remedy for it organically. Naturally, we were having the bans for aphids. But currently, we are still having other products which are organically well prepared for the control of either the aphids, either the mites, or whether the caterpillars organically.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you say organically, are these other, so to say, pests, other things that you'll introduce in terms of controlling those ones? Is it material that is organic that you will spray, or that, or it's a combination?
It's not a combination. Naturally,
yes,
there was a balancing.
Yes.
What God provided in the ground
was actually balanced.
Was always balanced.
Yes.
But due to the change of the climate, you see, the balance is keeping. One, it's increasing. The other one, there is a lot of shift. And that's why you see, like, what have already been gone done to create the balance, DLIPM have taken the, in terms of the production of it, increase in numbers so that it can create the balance in terms of sprays now.
Yes. Okay, that's interesting. Unfortunately, we are sort of out of time, but really interesting discussion, and thank you for your time, Mr. Njiraini. Really, really insightful conversation.
Thank you.
We want to close with Farmer of the Week, essentially. Look at people who are walking the talk, but that's why we want to close the show. So from us, it is Kwaheri ya Kuonana. We'll see you again tomorrow, same time. We'll leave you with this episode of Farmer of the Day. Take a look.
Choose the correct varieties. Come and get those varieties that KALRO has recommended. The ones that are named out there like Raja F1, and then we also have our varieties, 3 of them going through NPT that will come out. So if you choose the correct variety, already now you're a step ahead. The next thing is, how are you growing these tomatoes? So now we're not only adding fertilizers or farmyard manures or organic manures, but we also have this soil amendment called Kokoli. And I'm hoping that they'll be able to show that Kokoli, when you now grow your tomatoes with Kokoli, then what happens is the tomatoes do not only get very red, this is kind of oranges, this is a bit redder. They get deep red, but also the tomatoes are hard. So when you harvest them and put them through the logistics of getting them to the market, these tomatoes can stay looking at you healthy and nice, minimal post-harvest losses for up to a month. So just how you grow, the soil amendments you use. So you can use Kokoli mixed with your fertilizer or use Kokoli as a foliar. That is the new kid on the block, the new baby, the new KALRO technology that we're really promoting. And farmers in Loitoktok are saying this is the best thing that ever happened to them. Use Kokoli.
Upande wa ukulima nyanya ni sawasawa, ina faida vizuri, unapata faida. Maana nimekuwa nikijimudu hiyo miaka yote 15, na upande wa nyanya nimesomesha watoto, nimefanya mambo yangu, nimejenga, niko na manyumba yangu. Niko na gari pia ambaye zinatumika kubeba hii nyanya, na yote nimetoa shambani. Kwa hivyo nikianza kilimo sikuwa na kitu yote, na mpaka sasa niko hapa nimejimudu kimaisha, na mambo si mabaya sana. Ukiona tu kimefika kiwango ya kuigiza ng'ombe shambani wanakula nyanya, ni kukosa mahali popote ya kupeleka ile nyanya. Unapakia gari kama ni zangu zinapeleka nyanya sokoni, lakini pia unakuta ile nyanya, ile gari kienda sokoni kuna hasara ambayo huwezi ukarudisha. Kwa mfano kuchumisha gari moja hapa ni shilingi 22,000 kwa wachumaji. Ukishachuma 22 kuna shilingi 16,000 ya wale graders ambao watagrade ile nyanya na kupakia kwenye gari. Utarudi ulipe cess ya 7,000 shillings, that is a total of 45,000 shillings. Ukishapakia na umepakia gari yako ikienda sokoni, ile pesa 45,000 ambayo umetumia pale shambani hutaipata kabisa. So unaona ni vizuri hata afadhali nyanya iharibikie shambani, maana hata ikienda sokoni hailipi hata ile pesa yako ya kuchumisha. Kwa hivyo tunaomba kama inaweza kuwa na mambo ingine, kuwe na njia nyingine ambayo tunaweza process hizi nyanya kama kiganda hivi ya kuprocess hizi nyanya zitoe kitu kingine, yani value addition.
Farm Kenya brought to you by Fugo.